Hey, it's Coach Nick Tumminello. I want to talk to you a little bit about abdominal training, more specifically anti-extension abdominal training. What I mean by that is anti-extension training is basically strengthening your abdominals so that they're very effective and efficiently can reduce hyperextension at your lumbar spine. So they're strong enough to pull you back and resist unwanted forces that may pull you into extension and cause compression at your spine and whatnot. Now, one of the popular applications that is floating around, and it's been around for a long time with the ab wheel and things, is the old ab rollout. Whether you use an ab wheel, which is more advanced than the ball, which I'm about to show you, or a ball rollout. Great exercises, we use these a good bit. But one of the things that we're finding is we're trying to make our exercises, at least our core exercises, a little more postural specific. Now what I've found kind of across the board is our athletes that are a little more lordotic, which means you have a little extra curve in your lumbar spine. I'm slightly lordotic. What we tend to do, athletes that are built like myself tend to do when we do rollout variations, is because we're kind of extension dominant, exercises like this, even if we do it right, we'll really start to cheat and go into extension there. So it's kind of tough to get the feedback. And to make sure, if I'm working with a few clients, it's tough to make sure that everybody's doing it correctly. So with the lordotic athletes, we've kind of moved away from doing rollout variations, and we're doing more leg lowering variations, which I'll show you in a second. With our athletes that have more normal curvatures or even a little bit of a flatter lumbar spine, the rollout variations are fantastic because it actually does create a little more length in their abdominals, and we can encourage a little bit of extension in those athletes because their lumbar curve is not as extended as it should be. So for a lordotic athlete, instead of using a ball rollout or an ab wheel rollout, what we've been moving towards is a good old-fashioned leg lowering. Now, basically that works like this. We start with the legs up in the air, and we lower the legs as far as they can without changing their posture. Now, a lot of people coach this, and they say, you know, posteriorly rotate your pelvis and flatten your lower back, and then lower your legs as low as you can, and not allow your lower back to come up. We don't coach it like that. We want a neutral spine. A posterior rotation is not a neutral pelvis or a neutral spine. So we want to teach our athletes and clients how to control neutral. So what we tell them to do is start with a neutral curvature. So wherever they started here, wherever their position is here with their knees flexed, that's where they're going to keep. So we don't want the lumbar curve to increase, or we don't want the lumbar curve to decrease. We want it to stay the same. And then we're going to have them hold that position and lower their legs as low as they can, tap their heels to the ground, and come back up. Again, nice and slow, tap their heels to the ground, and come back up. So we're maintaining, making sure that we watch that they're not going into hyperextension. If they are going into hyperextension because the weight of their legs is too heavy for their abdominals to resist, very easy to regress this exercise. We simply just go to a single leg variation where they drop one and then drop the other. And we'll do this about 45 seconds to a minute because we're trying to build some sort of endurance there as well. Now, if that's a little easier and we have someone who can get past this kind of heavy knee bend position, then we'll just start lengthening the lever arm. So instead of dropping the heels only a few inches from my rear end, we'll have them extend their legs out further and come back. And you can hear my voice. That's much, much more difficult. Again, it's all about quality, not about quantity. We want to make sure, regardless of which progression or regression that you use on the leg lowering, that the pelvic position, the lumbar spinal position, stays exactly the same. If somebody finishes their set and they go, oh, I feel that my lower back, it definitely means their lower back was extending, and you would either regress the exercise or coach a little bit better and really watch them to make sure they're doing it correctly. So, to conclude, for our more lordotic athletes, our anti-extension training here at Performance University is moving away from the rollouts, the abdominal rollout variations, and more into leg lowering variations. But for our athletes that have a little more optimal curvatures or they have flatter backs, we'll definitely go to the rollout variations for abdominal training.